to top 3 here in the final, in the final stage.
There is something to be said for playing that last day and being demoralized and then suddenly going, okay, no, there is the chance. You know, like suddenly you feel like
you're saying there's a chance.
You can take the destiny back into your hands and really start to make the climb out of it. Now, I will be honest, the Falcons' firefights haven't looked the cleanest yet, but we know that that's a squad that can pull it out. Arena's firefights on the other hand. And Barpo.
We talked about him. I mean, he really has been sort of the piece that has been fun to watch in a lot of these fights. We saw it when Arena ran into trouble. It felt like it was Gen G that was giving them a bit of that, right? It seemed like it was Falcons that were giving them a bit of that. So a lot of these teams seem to be sort of gravitating around each other. That mansion game was a lot to see in terms of how just Arena ran the outside of that mansion. They controlled the swamp. They really top tier.
Well, see, that's what I love is whenever we get those more chaotic games, you can really get an idea for the IGL and the goals of the squad whenever you're not dealing with a more formulaic set of circles, right? Whenever you have to deal with the military or whatever else like that, you can see what the teams are after. But Arena up at the top, 71 points. Twisted Minds back behind that with 58. Such a drop-off. Then just back behind that's going to be Falcons and another massive drop-off into Gen G.
I mean, that's really the story of today right now. Arena can play perfectly middling and still be in a position to win this tomorrow. Twisted Minds, I think, will capitalize on any let-go that Arena has. But everyone else has dropped off so far after the Falcons. I mean, Gen G is next in fourth with 39 to the 51 of the Falcons. They have to start moving. There's only 12 games left.
What, fourth place has 60% of the points that first place does right now? That is pretty interesting off the get-go.
Sounds not going to comment on the math, but it sounds solid to me. But you're right. It is not very much comparatively, and they've got to have a good day today. Now, you guys can play Fantasy with us. If you missed the chance to play this season, of course, we're doing this all year long, so make sure that every big PUBG event, you're getting over to Twire and getting signed up to play along with the rest of us. Now, we have been playing Matchroom. It hasn't gone swimmingly for you and I so far.
Yeah.
Hopefully that should be... Okay, before we... Yeah, they're going to show us. They're going to show it. So these are our picks, and as of right now, it looks like you and I are doing great based on the lineup.
I got to huff some copium right now. I have faith that Hemas will do well.
We both have him. Everybody added Jacob for the most part, which I think is very telling onto how Arena has played. Looks like a lot of Twisted Minds players out there as well, and really a lot of Falcon changes after yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, that's no surprise. Jacob making appearances on there. Shout out to Cam for also picking him up. Ming Ming has just been a ridiculously solid. I love that Elfish guy has a commitment to what his theme is and just doesn't care. He's like, no, I have faith in it. And Heba still climbing. I thought that we might see a drop-off because he was like 10% yesterday, right?
Listen, Example has taught me this in the past. Himas lives up to this, and it is the second you take him off your team, he decides to play again. So I expect, right, 100%. So I refused. I thought about it. I thought about changing to Ming Ming all morning. It was a tough situation to sit there and sip my coffee in a beautiful hotel in Shanghai, relaxing with my feet up. So much stress. Do I put Ming Ming or Himas in? And I chose Himas. I think he's going to come through, though. Then I'm looking at these numbers. It makes me think, maybe I should have gone the other way.
Well, I mean, it is still Himas, so you can expect high damage numbers, provided he doesn't go out early and lose you 3 points if you captain him, which happened earlier yesterday. But, I mean, Example's been still a performance, but Ming Ming has just been drawing so much attention. Luke 12 also high on this list just due to particularly the group stage and the performance that we saw coming out of that. But the easy pickups for it, I would say, had to be Arena. You had to make sure to grab them because they were just so cheap by comparison.
All right, so Matt, bad news.
I already knew, dude.
Though I'm Miley Cyrus in this, all right? I've climbed over Saga. I'm going to catch up to Cameron today. He's flipping me off again. He's always ready. I'm going to beat Cameron, and I think one day we're going to pass the Elfish guy, even though he is the most committed. I mean, I think his first roster was like, I'm just going to pick the Aussies, and now look at this.
I just don't understand. How do I pick Hemas on the day and make him captain on the day he doesn't do anything? I pick Example on the day and make him captain on the day he doesn't do anything. It's like, what am I doing with my life?
Well, you're going to tell us about the matches that we're playing today.
All right. Well, we are starting on Erangel, moving to Bikindi, then over to Tego, where we've got ourselves some Miramar, finishing everything out. Miramar, my favorite.
Love the Dusty Dunes. There's anything can happen over there. Erangel, though, a good place for us to start off. And I think it's time to start talking about the future of the championship, all right? Remember, we've not had a ton of PGSs, 3 so far. We've got 17, we've got Sonics, and we've got Cerberus. 2 of those teams, our 1 and 2 champions, are not here for the most part. There are only 5 people in this building who can repeat win PGS. Cerberus, and interestingly enough, Mime, who was removed or left the Sonics roster after PGS 2, is now in a position to get his second win.
That is a very wild statement that I hadn't thought on, but you are 100% correct.
Let's see if that story develops. It's something we're going to be watching, just like we hope you stick around to watch some of the best PUBG there is to offer. This is PGS4 Final Stage, starting now.
Bọn mình cần cải thiện tâm lý cũng như phong độ ạ. Vì ngày 2 vừa rồi bọn mình đã có một phong độ không được tốt nên là bọn mình đã hơi thụt lùi.
We had bad communication, bad rotations and bad team fights. And we've basically gone through some serious changes just to try and make sure that doesn't happen in the grand final.
We're here to redeem ourselves for our performance in PGS3, and ideally a top 8 would be fantastic, top 5, and then winning, of course.
That mini 14, so he's going to make good use of them. A lot of headshots coming through there, as well as now the grenades onto Twisted Minds are perfect.
Final stage is a different beast for us, but I think we can be there at the top.
경지가 명성 있는 팀이기도 하고 이제 부담감도 좀 크긴 한데 그래도 잘 적응해 나가고 있고 앞으로 남은 세계대회랑 PGS4 다 열심히 해가지고 좋은 성적 내겠습니다.
I think we are confident right now coming to the finals because it's a completely different game, and with how we played the group stage of the PGS4, I feel like we're pretty confident and we're gonna be pretty confident in the final. I think we can grab our wins and the top placements as well in the leaderboard.
HSM is pushing his way forward and he's gone a little bit too far as well. Longskra looks for the double down, he can't quite get it, but there is a cleanup for New Happy in the mix.
我觉得 PS 对我们最有威胁的队伍应该还是 CES 吧，他们现在打得很自信吧，然后打得也很勇。
回到队伍的改变是，我感觉大家来到正面打架会更多一点，所以我们正面火力会足一点。
The Chinese scrims to grow up the momentum, and that's how we came to the PGS4, like fully prepared.
We definitely see our trophy in our future. For the PGS4 trophy is not unrealistic.
That would put them at approximately 100. That's still very good after a 12-game margin, but behind them, we've got the likes of Twisted Mind.
Their momentum is going to shift. The fear on the top of the leaderboard could also shift.
We've seen them do it. All of those down towards the bottom end of the standings. Currently, the bottom 4 have all had massive moments, whether it be at PGS3 or in the group stage of PGS4, but we're yet to see it on display here and now, where it all matters the most. The prize pool, the PGS points, and the power rankings for teams that comes into play later down the line this year, all up for grabs, and it has to start right now on Erangel.
Not a bad playing path to start things off. Not great, not perfect, but could be worse. And at the very least, this one highly suggests that it is not going to be Sosnovka Island.
It could just find a way.
It might.
The way that things have been going, but no, it certainly seems that's not going to be the case. Maybe we might get a glimpse at the elusive northern zones. It's been a little bit of a while since we saw too much up towards shooting range and above. Gen G would, I'm sure, benefit massively from a zone like that as they head uncontested up towards the north. Virtus Pro made a little bit of an adjustment on their loot spots. In yesterday's matches, they were sharing Yasnaya. You can see the expected loot locations with 4AM. This time they've backed away just a little bit just to give themselves a little bit of breathing room.
Yeah, taking a bit of a mansion split there, but as you can see, the observers are identifying that Na'Vi are currently around Georgia Pole, dealing with bridge camps and trying to catch other teams out and really fight with the North Georgia Pole teams on rotate. North Georgia Pole is E-Arena, and with the circle being towards the east, might lead to some interesting interactions because TSM towards the bottom, arguably nothing to lose. E-Arena towards the top, a lot to lose.
Very much so. TSM, team that knows what it's like to be up at the top, but fall off in form, not entirely through fault of their own in many circumstances. It's just a little bit unfortunate to see, given that we know that they're capable of it. They've shown it literally in the same week as this.
Right.
Howl playing a classic Howl game, making an early move out from Shelter. They fought for this place up against Weibo Gaming and have managed to maintain their hold on it uncontested, despite both Weibo and Armory Gaming scrapping over the Shelter position. But early on, Rello will take a loss as he pushes straight in towards Twisted Minds. They made a move just early enough, and that's what I mean. Unfamiliar rotation timings, playing from different positions. Twisted Minds catch out the first for free.
Yeah, really good capitalization on that. There is Mime in the sky taking a solo E pickup. Could be using that as a scouting maneuver, but with the rest of the Falcons having to turn tail and find another avenue into the zone. This river cutting off potential sort of wrapping angles away from that Twisted Minds camp is going to put Mime a bit further ahead from the rest of the team. If he's able to find a spot, and let's be clear, Mime is very good at what he does, which is get ahead of his team and open up a position, open up an angle to come on in, but he's going to be going into Yasnaya off the back of this one. Could find a place towards the north, but of course will be contesting with Genji and Na'Vi if he flies too far that direction.
Try and find somewhere as a potential home base for Flood and Snakers to make a push towards relative safety. He's taken a long game, just casually, scouting for as long as he possibly can. Not feeling too much pressure from the shots from 4 AM, a lot of them flying past, but nothing connecting as it currently stands. He's still going. He's still just holding control up there, gliding his way forwards. Almost like a Feyrist, getting free information.
Right.
Just work out in favor of Falcons as they can get the regroup.
I mean, the downside of this particular parachuting off of an E-pickup is that you can't cut the parachute and then redeploy until you're like a certain height. So he's stuck up there. If he does start to get tagged, he's gone. But it was a lot more free to get to. E-pickup's a lot easier to deploy than a glider, of course, and he's just going to be up there feeding the information. The rest of the team is now grouping up, but not the only team that are coming in from the north side, as yes, indeed, E-Arena and TSM rotating next to each other. No one has pulled up to really commit to a fight just yet, but I think TSM Alo has been able to corner Tigger. Tigger is backing away, allowing TSM to rotate on through, and so the potential early fight, however an advantage that they would have, TSM are not going to they will not be taking it. They will prefer to get into the zone, find a better early position. This is, in fact, still only phase 1.
It was almost at the midpoint of day 1 of the final stage where TSM seemed to almost flip a switch and think, okay, things haven't gone great for us, but we know that we're capable of coming in those top positions. They did it in the group stages, so getting more aggressive. It was on Vikendi and Tago that they really started to commit to those pushes, and they're looking to bring some of that same energy as they force E-Arena away. But Rex now has the full information, creeping forwards from Genji. They got just ahead of Falcons into the compound. He's doing his best not to give any audio cues away.
Slow walking up, and just with Snakers and Mime so far away, if Flood goes down here, very likely could get instantly confirmed, instantly flushed. Doesn't seem to be aware of Rex at all. Now spotting out other members of Genji, so could have a little bit of a spider sense going on here.
I think he heard something.
Oh, very close one there, but Flood now has the information and a vehicle to play with. Could be looking to fall away, but Rex with the grenade in hand tosses that one up. Cooked pretty well, but Flood backs away just in time.
Rex might have just given away a single footstep. His shuffles just not quite short enough. Flood seemed to sniff out the information that a player was creeping their way closer, and Mime holding the angle as well. Yes, the grenade did some damage, and Flood will fall back into the vehicle, but no follow-up to come through. Mime will make sure of that.
Really good covering fire by the teammates. The second they found that information out, good adjustment, and Falcons having lost the first player already. The only death of this round so far, of this day so far, if they had lost a second, would be a terrible first round to try and maintain their top 3 position, but good recovery there as we see E-Arena rotate into Stallber, and again, TSM aren't far from this.
Not all too surprised that the late wrapping teams are coming in towards similar positions. Na'Vi, I mean, would normally be among their number, but they, dropping on towards Stallber at the start of the game, have got a slightly more central position, as now have FaZe Clan arriving into the northern side. Up on the hilltops to the western side of Lipovka. Behind them, though, is New Happy and Legacy, both wrapping in extremely late on the south, making entries at about 8.5 minutes. And regardless of where this zone shifts, there are going to be teams who are going to start being forced together and squeezed for position.
This could be an early fight for Stallber. You see Zizzy looking around, waiting to see if TSM give him an opportunity for a kill. And of course, Wally Tai also rotating in from the north, not too far behind. These first 2 teams, and the sound of those vehicles arriving could pull either of these teams out and back, but Zizzy's trying to strike. Just barely can't get that first knock.
Zizzy does this so well. Almost like the Sololzy role in the dominant run of PGS3's final stage. For Cerberus Esports, playing solo, holding the backline, making sure that his team is safe, and enabling the players like Jacob, like Tigger, to get aggressive. TSM trying to find an avenue, find an angle to get in, but Zizzy will hold the line. Not quite enough to get the knock. Would have been an all-important one, no doubt, but for now it's just a scare for TSM. But they do manage to keep Vol 4 alive.
Yeah, there are a couple of pockets that TSM can play here. At the very least, it is not a high-priority position in Phase 1. They will likely have to move into a different position, perhaps one they can fight more effectively from. But really at this point, it's about finding hard cover. They know Wally Tai are going to be to the north, so play for safety, play conservative. At this point, we are only less than 10 seconds away before Phase 2, where they're going to have to make the next decision of where they're going to go. Similar story for New Happy as they approach the south of FaZe Clan. But where is Phase 2? It's going to be a hard shift all the way down to the south. Stalber is no longer a factor. Petrichor Road, dead center of this one, and suddenly it is wide open. The terrain south of Yasnaya is a stark contrast to what we see in the north.
Good news for teams like FaZe, like New Happy, like Legacy, who wrapped all the way in towards the south, late into Phase number 1. Gen.G's already disengaged entirely from their potential fight against Falcons that never really came to fruition, but that gives them a good avenue to start making a move down towards the south of the western side of the zone. Sololzy pulling out of a compound as the entirety of FaZe Clan just rock up behind him.
Good covering fire by the teammates. Himas landing some shots, but Sololzy is the one that goes down to Jeans, as you also see TSM get multiple kills against Wally Tai in the kill feed. So Cerberus Esports pushed away from their position, a really, really fast collapse by FaZe Clan, and it seems that they come out on top with this one. They might have lost that vehicle. Quick little coupe just shoved up on the rock there, but they get one kill out of it. They get a nice position, and surrounded by fields, it's a really interesting spot to defend from. It's only one story. There's a little bit of vulnerabilities to it, but there's a big, wide gap of what we call sort of zone of influence.
Yeah, that's a kind of position where you're not really anticipating keeping your vehicles
right
up and healthy. It's a 4-man commitment into a spot and hoping that the next couple of zone shifts go in their favor. But it's a powerful position if it works out in their favor. Some shouts going along behind us as Howl getting tangled up close with 4AM. Not too sure where those knocks came from, but HSM trying to punish, trying to get up close, but he's turned back.
Yeah, pulled away from that one. Don't exactly know what pressured them to do that. I think it might just be Petrichor Road being curious and peeking up over that hill. Howl should be able to get these revives, both of them in the corner here, as long as there's no sneaky grenade that can somehow make its way through, but all of the threats have pulled away from that one. Revive should be able to become successful. Gen.G now with that rotate that we saw through the Yasnaya bridges. Coming in now from the southwest side, a bit of an open gap, and they're playing this one in a 2-2 split. Could get caught out, spotted out by New Happy as they approach in. And now TSM as well arriving again with those first 2 kills. Are they aware of Bleed's existence here on the sort of high-low double compound that's just on the edge?
I would imagine they are. Sparking is still in a vehicle. He's up towards the north playing the high ground. Bleed in a bit of a 2-2 split just to the northern side, not only of TSM, but over the north of Mansion as well, where Bleed had a very excellent game yesterday. Didn't quite do enough to secure the chicken dinner, to secure the win, but it was by far their highest performing game of the final stages so far. Now with a bit of pressure coming in from Sparking up north in that position, they can hold it for now, and there is some space open and available further into the zone, as is the case for Falcons on the opposite side to the west, although Gen.G starting to flex their hold. Be aware of teams coming in late of the blue zone.
Falcons rotating up into J compound with only 25 seconds left. It makes sense to not want to commit any further into the zone. Remember, they came all the way from the north, from Stalber, a more conservative rotate, a safer rotate in. They likely don't have the same information on where all the other teams are playing inside the zone, so good to take this one slow. But TSM, yes, they are now aware 100% that Bleed have members here. Aquaman already down as we see a fight happening in Yasnaya between 4AM and E Arena. Jacob has been confirmed as well as the shift goes towards the north.
VP was setting up one of their classic maneuvers. Just before the zone popped, they hopped onto the back of an emergency parachute, ready to go wherever this zone would take them. Fortunately, it's taken them right back to where they started, so a quick drop back on towards Heaven. We've seen multiple games end around that area, and we expect big things from VP in a position like this.
But TSM, most fighting team in this round so far. It's still the early game, but already putting 3 kills in their pocket, trying to climb up from the double digits, building that momentum, building that confidence to see how much further they can take it, because they are coming in from the edge as Legacy now roll up onto a dip not far from Petrichor Road. Petrichor Road should be aware of this. This could be vulnerable to grenades at this range, but it all depends on how comfortable Petrichor Road are at sending themselves out on the field, just like we see Chewy here.
Stands right now, there's enough teams putting pressure on towards one another further to the south. Cerberus, FaZe, Gen.G, and Falcons all denying each other the opportunity and the space to push in towards Pero, so they have the freedom to actually push out. send a couple out from their compound, send a couple of grenades. Chewy still has his in hand, just trying to make sure he gets in range, spread them out across the team, so they can combine the utility. Here it comes, a barrage towards Legacy.
As we also see Falcons swing in along the side of this. I was wondering if that was going to be a distraction. Petrichor Road, it is not. The grenades land. Summer and Left all chiming in with damage. We'll see if Falcons want to play off of this one, as Legacy are eliminated in virtually the blink of an eye. One final shot from Ibiza onto LFP is all it took. And with the arrival of Falcons, Petrichor Road do not want to overstay their welcome.
That just feels like one of those that happens to you every single time you play a ranked game. Just a team just runs out across the open and no one shoots at them. Nothing really Legacy could do from that position. They couldn't fight back without VP third-partying onto them. Just an unfortunate spot for them to have pulled up in, but not really many options towards this side of the zone. The Falcons, they heard all the commotion. They pulled up a little bit just outside of range and maybe thankful that they were a little bit later so they weren't the victims of such a bombardment.
New Happy now also playing in from the edge. Little garage spot onto Mansion. A good compound, but Mansion's not exactly a priority position in this zone, but it's still going to be an okay position to try and play leapfrog from, get the information, play in through the mid-game. Because as you can see with the sends from Legacy and Falcons not being particularly confident ending spots, there aren't that many positions to play high. Agency positions are already found by Howl, Virtus Pro, and Petrichor Road. Anything else beyond that, a lot more sketchy.
Yeah, it's not great. You're not one of the teams that holds on to one of the compounds. Should this go anywhere close towards the center, it's all going to be little dips and ridges and the rest of it's fields.
Ooh.
Certainly not ideal. Himas trying to do Himas things. Walk for free across the open, try and find an opening. No big ridges on Miramar to walk up this time. Yep, Virtus Pro, not a surprise at all. That emergency parachute got called off so quickly. More than happy just to sit in that compound and force the rest of the game to come towards them.
This is such a strong compound. There is a chance that they get a lot of kills from this position, but some of them will have to be steals because there is a lot of rotations that are going to be crashing into each other. Everyone's on the edge. They can only maintain those positions for so long, but Tosi from Gen G getting ever closer into Petrichor Road. Petrichor Road's position is no longer in the zone. Do they stay here, try and fight it out, or do they send it into the dip that they took from Legacy with the grenades and the smokes coming out from Gen G? Could push them further towards the east and only giving this spot away because, again, this compound not in the zone.
Yeah, this game's really on a clock now. It's on a timer. You've got two options. You fight on the edge or you try and make a push in towards the middle. Catch VP in a 3-1 split with Quizzy holding the north, or Twisted Minds rock up to where Falcons have set up with the folded shields, but Perfectix with a P90 and Ibby contributes with a Panzerfaust from above, and Falcons meet the same fate as Legacy.
But how long are Twisted Minds going to be able to survive here? We saw how easy it was for them to roll on up. The P90 suppression certainly helped, but there's not a lot of cover there. And now Gen G, they are in fact going to be taking this position from Petrichor Road, but some are setting up on an off angle. A knock already found onto Adder. Molotov thrown out to try and confirm that one, and the smoke there for a little bit of safety, a little bit of more room and space to play around with. But time is running short. As you said, a minute and a half is left before Phase 4 is closed.
Haisaki's made his appearance on the southern side of the minimap. Gen G will land a grenade. They will dislodge Summer from that position that was anchoring them from pushing any further in towards the compound onto the rest of Petrichor Road. And Howl is even flexing out of their compound to the north, hearing all of the shots, all the chaos, all the grenades. But it's Cerberus that's probably the more immediate threat, particularly to Ike's left. Trying to keep his head on a swivel, watch both at the same time. Now even FaZe Clan starting to make a move too.
The center of the zone is so dead. Everyone else is just fighting here on the edge. Shuri with a bit of a bolt action shot, trying to follow up with the barrel spray. Doesn't get the knock that he was looking for, and that would have been so crucial because, as you say, everyone is converging on this position. They would rather fight it out to the death on the edge here than try and make a send towards the center, try and make a send to be pitted below Virtus Pro Sky Garden compound. Blue is collapsing, overtaking Gen G. The shots have to come out. Axleft has been knocked by Rex as we see everything light up in the kill feed, but Ming and Chewy, last two left for Petrichor Road. Grenades come out, shots come flying through, blind in the smoke. And there it is, that should be it. No, 1 point of HP left. Tosi still standing, but deep in the blue. That blue zone damage is really starting to rack up.
He's still alive. He must have a jammer pack. Somehow he survived. The spray from Haisaki, he lost him. The second that he just touched the tip of that smoke grenade, he just hit the deck immediately. Haisaki continued to track where the run would have been. It's not the case. It's fallen apart on this push for Cerberus. Someone had to fall first. It will be them. But they came into third party, both Gen G and Pero. And ultimately, all three of those teams are likely to fall, but Cerberus falling first was not on the cards for their game plan.
Not at all, even with the P90. Despite losing player early on, that's such a powerful weapon, you have to give it a little bit of a bonus when you compare teams facing off against each other. But the circle, as we saw, Phase 5 does continue to favor Virtus Pro Sky Garden, and a lot of teams still finding themselves on the edge. A revive coming through from Petrichor Road to stay at least at 2, but how do Howl get themselves out of this spot? They cheese towards the south, but with all 4 still up, they want to take a much more straightforward fight, and at the moment, it's going to be against 4 AM with Wally Tai pitted between.
Considering which team this is, which region they're from, got a pretty good idea how Howl might want to get out of this position, and it probably involves all 4 of them getting into a car and just driving forwards. But alternatively, getting the headshots on towards Uniques in a position that is still outside the zone might give them a reason to stick around a little bit longer. Orkarin has no real choice in the matter. He has to remain where he is. TSM does not know about him. As soon as they try and make this push out of the mansion, he's in a prime position to stab them in the back.
TSM pick up to the spot, all the way in from the north. Again, just another reminder of how open this rotate is. 4 AM, no other option. They're going to be sending it on in. Virtus Pro, E-Arena already here. Twisted Mind still pitted below. The car goes way up in the air out in the open. HSM swings off all the way to the side, but the knocks are only just now starting to come on in against them.
And Godvi ran himself over on the bike, and that wasn't even the one that was flying through the air. But 4 AM have actually just given the alarm bells, the signals to everyone else that, hey, there's no one even in this position. This was totally free, but E-Arena have now taken that opportunity to make the push.
But was the last one up, 1 HP, prone out in the open, but with the chaos of 5 teams now here at Sky Garden. Well, they are eventually going to be found for Angry Men eliminated in 12th place, but it is a mosh pit. What is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? Yeah. Come on, let's make it 7. Come on, where is it? More teams in. We want more.
There's just nowhere else for anyone to go. It's just this King of the Hill high ground that VP have been holding on to, and they're allowing all the peasants around them to scrap between themselves.
Good grenades, good frags, good knocks. Howl are falling as we speak. Stuns come out. Ferris is trying to take point. Wally Tai are eliminated in 11th. As I believe it was Example's grenade that did the last job there. Ruin goes down. It's all on to one member left for Howl, is trying to stick one revive. Surely one teammate left standing to try and make something of this moment.
Yeah, there's no way they can get over to Code Marco. That gap in the smoke's just far too big. Diffix has that on lockdown, and now with Lyrics up on the roof as well. Orkarin has activated from his position. It's enough to catch out Luke 12 as TSM makes a push out of the mansion. They were taking a fight up against New Happy close on their south, and they have to. There's nothing else to play. VP now forces everyone from the northern side to push in towards the southern tip of the compound where they're holding, and there is nothing else but a vast expanse of open fields and maybe a tree or two for anyone to play in this game. More people are going to be dying very, very soon.
Very, very soon. Win your fight. Win the fight that is in front of you. That's really the only play that is left for the majority of these teams. Petrichor Road still surviving, the duo that is left. 7 kills for them. But they're not alone with the question of how in the world are we going to make it further from this?
Options are limited. Everyone's tried it to make a send in towards whatever ridges, whatever dips there exists around the Sky Garden compound that VP's been holding on to for so long. There's just nothing left. Petrichor Road, I can't imagine them getting any much further into this game. Maybe getting a placement point if they're fortunate, if their timing can be good, but it really won't be too much more than that from this position.
There's been a bit of a standstill here on the small little dips around the north side of this compound set. But it's not going to last long, and Petrichor Road are now trying to find some angle to the north. Chewy's gone down. It's all left to Ming, half HP. Chewy gets confirmed. Stolen by Lucarux. Takes that kill away from Twisted Minds. That puts it 4 apiece between those two teams in terms of kills. We have yet to enter placement points. We have yet to enter placement points.
Yep.
There are still that many teams alive. But with the blue coming in, I still spot, what is this, 4 teams, maybe 5 teams that aren't in the Phase 6 zone. TSM are now out. We have finally entered placements.
Yep.
Top 8 confirmed. Who's going to go out next?
New Happy have done well to survive the onslaught as best they can. They've actually managed to keep all 4 alive, but with pressure from TSM and third-partying shots from above, VP in that position, that's no easy feat to keep all 4 alive. It gives them a chance to try and wrap around as Hakatori tries to make an entrance, sat down immediately. Tigger's there waiting with an S12K, and while he's traded, it won't be enough to dislodge E-Arena.
Bleed also got eliminated. Looking at the map now, it seems that everyone is in the zone. Even E-Arena, they have a small corner of that building.
It's not much.
It's not much, not at all. And Virtus Pro, they need to start getting activated if they want to farm the points from this position. It's understandable that they don't have too many from now because everyone was just trying to avoid this position. But with all 4 still left up, Virtus Pro playing it safe, allowing those teams to get under them, conceding buildings over to those other squads was all to keep them at full strength. 4 members standing. If they could hit double-digit kill points here, but they need to take care of E-Arena first.
Well, for Virtus Pro, it's come down to a bit of a resource management game now. Ibi extremely low on ammo for the DMR, needs to make those 9 bullets that he has last, or potentially ask for a little bit from his teammates. But as an IGL, you've got to prioritize your fraggers having what they need to be able to do their job to fulfill their role on the team.
E-Arena, we saw the push. We saw even more concession by Virtus Pro because New Happy also have an angle. They are still in the zone. They are still alive. They have a small def lead to play behind, but no longer because the phase continues to go to the north. Virtus Pro are now back to being virtually dead center of this zone, and they're just going to let everyone around them still try and fight it out. They're going to keep control of their buildings. That's the most important thing for them.
Well, once Twisted Minds had dislodged Falcons from this spot, they've been allowed to survive in this position just by virtue of their being presence elsewhere, but surely that won't last too much longer now. New Happy are committing to making a push. Vex will be the one to sit down December 12th, and it will be confirmed by Gustav.
There the push comes in. They've lost 1 on the crash, and then this makes it a 3 versus 3, assuming Virtus Pro do not find third-party angles onto this. Grenades come out, damage onto Non. And counter grenades, counter flashes, counter frags, and that's a lot of damage. Lyric's gonna go for the push. Gets 1, gets 2. Can he go for the third? It is a full wipe for E-Arenas. They are not going to go out of first place easy.
New Happy just rocked up into a death trap that they didn't even know was set because it wasn't at the time. No way to scout it, but E-Arena, so good with their aggression timing, spotted an opportunity, Lyrics lines them up, and knocks them all down.
And now it's FaZe's turn. They have a couple of trees to try and hide behind, but with Virtus Pro and Twisted Minds, 2 teams with lines of sight onto their position, the send through is getting caught.
Nowhere to go. They've got a tree to work with. It's not even in the zone. They just have to hope, beyond hope, that someone dies before them. That's really all they can do at this point, or some sort of miraculous Panzerfaust to get a quad kill, but I mean, I don't know. It's not looking good.
Virtus Pro are getting activated. Virtus Pro are getting activated as are Howl, and that's going to pull Twisted Minds' attention back towards the north. The moment is not able to get taken by FaZe as they go out in 5th place, and Twisted Minds go out just after. VP4, E-Arena 3, Howl with 2 if they can get the revive here. But with Nixie gone down, the E-Arena are in position to try and take this whole thing over.
And that's huge. That's drawn the attention of VP away. They were turning their entire force over to sweep Howl away from this position, but now they've been forced to turn back. That gives an opportunity for Howl to get back to a 2-man. Lookarooks has had to give ammo over to Ibi so he can even play the game at this point. He switched over to a micro Uzi. They're playing tower defense.
I mean, the tower that they're defending is still in the zone, as it will remain to be, but the ending is going to be below the shelf, below the hill where Twisted Minds were just eliminated from. But you can't go there first. It's going to be a fight till the end. I can only imagine every single team has their position of cover, and any attempt to peek out of it, it's not going to be a particularly safe one.
Well, funnily enough, it's the worst zone that Howl could really have asked for. I mean, they can try and wrap around the south, go into the position where there does still remain some cover from where the Falcons went down, from where Twisted Minds pushed into and met the same fate. But if they do so, there's no one really to defend against Virtus Pro just peeking up over the top.
Whoa, whoa, watch Tigger here, going for a slow flank on the north, looking to catch another member out. I mean, just looking at Howl, they're not paying attention in that direction. Who knows what Virtus Pro is putting their own eyeballs towards it, because, again, they're already down to 3. Even just removing 2 eyes from the situation can limit the information that you can gather. So slow approach around, but the blues coming on in. If Tigger can really break open this entire game from this position, from this flank, that would be absolutely amazing.
He's just bouncing his way around, really, but I don't think he has the utility to completely flush out VP or even Howl from this spot. He can maybe at best make use of that Molotov to make the balcony more difficult to play for Ibi for the time being. But he might just be better holding on to that until the zone starts to close and force them down from that position anyway. Ketpa, though, starting to make a move down south for Howl, looking for any sort of opportunities, any sort of angles, and it's Lyrics who might just be at danger of providing one.
Lyrics has taken the vehicle. could be using it just for temporary cover at the moment because I don't see any trees that are valuable to play behind. At least not at the moment. 10 seconds left or so before the final phase begins to close on in.
That's so bold to just walk out and wide peak like that, but he got a lot of information. There's really no other way that he could have found out whether or not Howl had made their way over down towards the vehicles, to the trees, anything, but risking his life for just a second and now spots the head of the Mad just to confirm what he already suspected.
Yeah, they knew that there's another team playing on the opposite side, but seeing is a different story entirely. Shots come out. None of them land, but it's all about reminding Howl that they cannot come this direction for free, but neither of these teams wants to commit because they know that Virtus Pro is going to be the last of the party, and usually when you're third, you're going to win the entire thing.
This is just the way the game is now. That's an IGL out there that's doing those high APM mechanical peaks. Makes it so difficult to hit, and yet their accuracy is so on point. The level of play on every player here is just insane, regardless of their role on the team.
Level 3 Helm, free P90. I'll take that one. Also grabs a couple of grenades from Twisted Mind's bodies, and with those in hand, could try and dismount E-Arena's position. But again, you cannot overcommit yet. You cannot push this too early, too fast. Molly's come flying back in. Keppa's going to be running through it. Has to prone down, 77 HP.
Trying to line up the grenades to roll down the hill. Keppa gets a heal off just in time to prevent himself from going down. E-Arena doesn't really want to commit too much more, especially now with Ibby up on the roof. He's got prime position, but it's temporary. It won't last. If he wants to try and get a knock, now has to be the opportunity.
Peeking over, trying to get the information, and Tigger is watching as the rest of E-Arena keeps their eyes on Howl. But Blues on grenades, ready by Virtus Pro. EB has to drop off of the high ground. The spray comes out, almost gets knocked, but Tigger isn't able to find the lethal damage just yet. That will stall Virtus Pro's push momentarily as EB gets a first aid kit off. But now they might be locked in. The spray from Tigger comes out, gets the first, but EB swinging around the side, could be catching a different angle. As Lucarux now goes down to the blue, EB needs to get activated. Last one up for Virtus Pro, confirms that kill. 9 kills for Virtus Pro.
Zizzy having to deal with the Howl push on the bottom side at the exact same time. If he can still do this, he does!
He did! How? From the high ground, this is what I was saying. No one wanted to commit to the fight because they could not guarantee that they will be the last ones up, and it was hard fought to the very end. But Virtus Pro do come out on top with the win. 11 kills for it.
Tigger rubbing his eyes, covering his face in disappointment. He missed the crucial piece of information that the player lurking behind the folded shield was not the one who he had tagged down to single-digit hit points as he drops off the roof. Getting caught out by Ibby on the close-range angle through the bushes was the downfall, ultimately, of E-Arena.
But what a run by both Howl and E-Arena coming into that position and being able to hold off as strong as they did. Quite a few kills shared between those top 3 squads alone, and that's it for game number 1. We got 5 left today.
The spot's called heaven, but it felt like Dante's Inferno, as every circle was worse than the last. Ultimately, VP wins game 1, and Matt, a quick reminder, they have played, I believe, 4 days in this PGS4 event, and they've won a chicken dinner in the first game of 3 of them. Pretty impressive.
It's its own level of consistency.
Right?
I mean, see, I got a joke for you since you introduced that one. It was like, I know that all dogs go to heaven, but apparently polar bears.
Nice. I knew you'd get the Dante's Inferno reference. That's what I can count on you for, Matt. Classical literature references. This really was brutal.
Side of this, that meant the fact that every single time they were going for a peak, there was going to be teams that were looking at them, and E-Arena just kind of was sweeping that lower section, protecting VP on one angle, and then we had Howl on another one. And so really VP just got to start maintaining the further distance so that way nobody else could encroach in.
You know, and Howl took the passive approach. No judgment on that. They sort of let everybody else fight out because where Howl was, there just was no cover whatsoever. E-Arena had to deal with that split. They had to decide, do we send everybody up on top to deal with VP, or do we sort of hold this position because they had the center dot? They moved that car sort of to represent where it was. I can't judge them for their decision. I also think, to me, the big takeaway was the way that Tigger played that, because they had what I would call leading finals confidence. They could send people off to do solos because worst case scenario, he goes down, they can't res him, But you know what? We've got 71 points in the hopper. We're still putting kills on the board.
I just really love the way that they held that split, right? They had the 2 on the low ground because they already knew that where Hal was. That also meant the fact that they can control the center dots. That way whenever VP would come down. And then Tigger just absolutely unloaded. Remember that technically he killed the first member for VP up there, got the flush on it, then knocked the other 2, and then it was just EB was the only one that could stop Tigger on the top of that one. So just a phenomenal performance from him to really buy way more space for E-Arena.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, there's been game after game after game where E-Arena is showing us not only do they win when they get the circles, like they are just absolutely game presence ready and able to win fights that, like, you don't think they're going to win these peaks, and their flicks are incredible.
Well, I want to say, I don't know if I can pin it down just quite yet, but we're seeing that they know how to navigate the terrain in almost every single circle to their benefit.
Yeah.
Specifically locations where they can start playing cover bouncing. Like if we look back to the Erangel that was just a bit east of this, whenever we look, it was around Forest.
Yes.
They got control over that area by really just kind of shifting and having multiple firing lines available to set up a lot of crossfire. This is another continuation of that in some type of variance. Tigger up high while he had the other 2 that were kind of low to make sure the fact that they had crossfire capabilities. And we often see that, but with the splits and 2-2s and whatnot, they're doing it in a bit more of a 50 meters to 100 meter range and really executing cleanly.
We also got a Masters class in APM peaks from both of these teams, Virtus Pro and E-Arena. If you guys haven't noticed, that's this new peak that we're sort of seeing where it's a crouch / peak / step all at the same time. It's insanely difficult. Like we've taken some footage of their hands. We will tweet it out later so you can see what these guys are doing. But it's wild, and it's like I think Saga said it best. That is an IGL doing it, and that is just crazy how high the level of play has come. Now, when we talk about great IGLs, Ibiza, man of the match. This is another IGL who's winning man of the match because of their incredible performance.
And I respect his facial hair choices. 6 kills, 5 knocks, and almost 800 damage. Moving over to Sky Garden / Heaven real early gave them a ton of control inside of that game. So good read. Whenever we were looking at circle 3 or so, we kind of had it. We were talking about it in the green room about like, hey, there's 3 or 4 places this could go that could be good. I'm no surprise once Heaven shifted over, just prime position.
And absolutely. And I am willing to go on the record and say I think we should call it Sky Garden as a shout out to Paper Thin, who's not here, and all of our friends in that region.
See, I can't figure out which one I like more.
I love the sound of
them
Sky Garden.
But I also do like Heaven. It's just like so historic.
Well, that's where everybody wants to be, just like they want to be at the top of the leaderboard, and you're going to get a little bit higher up because VP got to Sky Garden first. They got the top, and they were able to put out a ton of damage and walk away with 11 kills. E-Arena, though, they get an insane amount, and the rich get richer. 87 points, seven games into this thing.
Yeah, so what? Holding down roughly a lot. More than 10 points per game. That's all you really need to know.
A stupid amount.
And whenever we look at Twisted Minds, they're holding down almost 10 points per game and just not even within touching range yet.
Twisted Minds is putting on an epic performance, okay? When you talk about scores 7 games in, E-Arena is just outclassing everyone on this map right now.
Speaking of, we also do have VP that's now shifted into
third. There are other teams.
Yeah, they've shifted in third. Falcon and Hal also had a good performance. Jinji with a pretty big slide on it.
Yeah, they did. But again, it was kind of an off game. If you weren't one of those teams that managed to get to a spot, we saw Falcons, right? They got into the tuck-in. Twisted Minds pushed up behind them and deleted them, but there wasn't much cover. So if you're a team that didn't get a hot spot right out the gate, that you just take what you could off of that match.
And I mean, that's where the original Heaven joke comes from for that location, right? Because if you're there, you feel good, and everybody else just feels terrible because you got a couple of trees, and that's about it to really work around. And let's not take anything away from VP. That was a ridiculously hard game to hold that for because there were 4 or 5 teams that were trying to encroach on it at different points, and there was just a ton of teams playing the low ground around it. There was a lot to track there, and while sure, we saw a lot of damage numbers come out from it, it's not like they were just sitting there on their laurels like, oh, we've got Heaven, what else do we need? That was hard to hold out.
It was hard to hold, but I will say I was glad to see a circle in the middle of the map, okay, instead of one of these crazy south circles that we were dealing with yesterday. I want to see if it's moving day, if these teams have their chance to make it up the board, I want to see some good middle circles all day long, give everyone a shot.
Say it's moving day, but it looks like it's all of the reoccurring from day one.
Well, let's move over to game number 2, our last game on the grassy pastures with Saga and the Kamadi.
It's only the last game on Erangel of today. We still, of course, have 2 more tomorrow. But yes, indeed, Saga, I will say I disagree. I don't want center circles. That's a bit too boring. Give us a little bit. Like, let's go. What's wrong with the North? What's wrong with the West? Let's get a bit more diversity here.
Yeah, nothing as boring and bland as central circles for the Cammy D. We're having none of that over here. Give us some spicy, spicy stuff. We're out here in Shanghai, after all. The spicy food is exquisite, it's fair to say. So why not have some spicy circles to go along with it?
Spicy points coming up from the arena, not just in this event so far, this grand final, this final stage so far, but also even just on Erangel. What was that, 13.7 points per game?
Ooh.
They didn't even win the previous match, and they're still getting a whole bunch of points. But Barpo, top of kills for Erangel.
8 games in.
Yeah.
Averaging 520 damage per game. Zizzy has been the unsung hero of E-Arena the entire time. Even when it came up at the start of the day and we talked about the fantasy scores that the teams and the players have accrued for those who picked them, Zizzy was not even on that list because during the group stages it was the rest of the team that was picking up the slack. This time around, man, he's fragging in this final stage.
What's with this drop? Virtus Pro leave their original plan of, I mean, basically where they just won from the mansion split. They go all the way down to Sosnovka. That's going to be 3 teams down here. I was wondering if they had some sort of inclination that it was going to be a military-based circle, but nope, it is going to be even more central than the previous game. A bit to the north, but this is going to put Twisted Minds and Falcons basically in dead center to start things off, and thanks, production. Thanks for that. Cheers. Appreciate it.
Did not need that today.
Or any day, rather.
On the bright side, that does bring up a good point. We were talking a little bit to some of the teams, and particularly those who have made roster changes, and especially when it comes to moving to a team that speaks different languages. Some of the teams are sort of international players, and the way that the call-outs differ from region to region. I mean, it's a potent example with Sky Garden, right?
Yep.
But certain teams have decided to go a step beyond and even have call-outs for individual rooms in buildings, so they can say, oh, there's one guy in the spooky, creepy baby puppet room. Just to speed up the comms a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's a bit too many syllables. I think it is strictly just the baby room.
It's the most apt description.
Ooh, well, actually, I think we do have an interview coming up with, I imagine, it's going to be Haisaki, so let's hear what Cerberus have to say.
Sau khi bọn mình vô địch BGS3 thì bọn mình đang có hơi mất tập trung và thiếu một xíu may mắn. Và mình mong là ngày hôm sau sẽ có nhiều may mắn hơn và bọn mình sẽ cố gắng hết sức để giành thứ hạng cao nhất. Trong trận đấu ngày hôm nay thì ở map Weekendy thì bọn em thể hiện được tốt nhất những pha combat của team, và nếu mà có ngày mai thì nếu mà qua ngày mai thì bọn em vẫn sẽ giữ chiến thuật đấy và cố gắng bắn hết sức có thể. Thì chiến thuật bọn mình cũng vẫn sẽ không thay đổi gì nhiều đâu, và trong những trận sắp tới thì bọn mình sẽ cố gắng hơn thôi.
I mean, yeah, this is an interesting question about Cerberus, because they're currently in 15th place. This is the team that dominated PGS3, looked really, really good, like they were going to continue that on their very first match, their first day of Halo. Could try and create an opportunity for a retreat by the TSM captain, or rather push forward and try to get a follow-up knock there. This could easily snowball one direction or the other one, but Kurt does seem to want to go for the fight. Ace at the ready to go for the shot, catches Rex out in the open, gets the knock. What's the follow-up going to look like? Look at all of the angles by the rest of TSM. Kurt doesn't even have a scope on the mini, but going to go for the shots nonetheless.
We saw TSM in a position very similar to this, where they held on to this compound that they're currently fighting for, and then had to defend against a barrage of about 7 emergency parachutes during PGS3, but it's a position that Kurt himself has said, if I could hold this every single game, I'd be a happy man, but Gen.G is not going to let them take it without a fight.
A knock coming out from Adder, making this one a 1-for-1, and at some point, even in phase number 1, you have to worry about when is another team going to get curious, when is another team going to try and follow up in either third party, or maybe even just collapse onto this. Adder, another knock coming onto Alo. It's starting to fall apart for TSM. It was a good start, but at this point, they might have bitten off more than they can chew.
It all starts to fall apart the second the TSM start to consider backing away. Alo got caught on the run with his back turn, trying to disengage, and now Rello stole away the kill as well from long distance. He's been keeping tabs on things from the northern side of Rozhok and found an angle. There's another potential flush up there, but he won't be able to find it from this lower ground position. TSM, they tried to get a little bit aggressive. It worked out for them earlier on, and just to not quite work this time around. They've lost 2 of their members. Moving on now, only 25 points in 14th place. It's a heavy loss to take.
It is, but at least they're able to get out. The big worry is that once you start to lose players, especially when you are locked in that close to the opposing team, what if you all just happen to go down before 6.5 minutes? Same timing that we see Na'Vi take the bridge across. Remember, there were a number of teams, multiple teams on Slamxcody Island, but they seem to have all played nice on their way back into the mainland.
Yeah, E-Arena made their way off pretty sharpish, actually, and made their way over to Milta Power on the east so they can do a little bit of extra looting. That might end up costing Na'Vi, as they're making a wide wrap on the eastern coast as Legacy make a much safer rotation all the way up to the west, now making their way around Everest and Kizera. Start making a move up on towards the high ground to scout a little bit further forwards. Closest opposition would be Wali Tai. They're just over by Ruins. Should be able to scout that out. But Lyric's now putting shots in towards Na'Vi as they do make their move. It will force them wider along the coastline. Whether E-Arena try and use this opportunity to camp them and take the 3 points, or just go for their risk-averse style that's been serving them so well and just try and make a move towards the zone and get away from any potential early engagements.
Whoop. Could be tempting, especially spotting a vehicle spin out like this, but Defex is able to correct it. Does not land on its back like a turtle, legs flapping in the air as we take a quick peek onto Virtus Pro as well. Winners of the previous round, currently holding out 3rd place with 53 points, though that does kind of pale in comparison to the point scores that first and second have, but nonetheless, looking to follow up on that previous win, looking to get a second.
It's very slow. Push over the bridge from Virtus Pro, but it makes a lot of sense given, as you said, the sheer number of teams that dropped on towards Sosnovka Island. They know there's every possibility they're being bridge camped, and it's very difficult to scout it out from particularly up towards the lighthouse from this angle. Dizzy will once again lurk behind as a solo, allowing Na'Vi to make a move beyond. Trying to put some sprays in. Diffix with a swift little seat swap lands a headshot, and Bayerist had pulled up on an angle that could have cost Dizzy a little bit more had he been able to find another angle through the trees, but it seems like neither team really wants to full commit into a fight. They're just happy to poke and prod at one another and continue the rotation.
It's an instance of, is this an opportunity? Okay, I'm going to hold it for 5 seconds, but I gotta get, I swear, guys, I really gotta get into the zone, the same way that Legacy are trying to get to the zone up against TSM, seemingly completely unaware, and Sparking instantly eliminates a previous ex-teammate.
Sure would be the team that I said is taking the safer rotation that ends up driving face first into a compound and ending up getting caught out by Sparking, just sat there quietly. No real attempt at scouting it out, or at least